Thanks for tuning in to Bourbon Drop. I'm your host, Myron. Today, we got a little bit of a single malt whiskey drop. Let's get it. Bottom drop, bottom drop, bottom drop. This happens to be my first Indian single malt that I've ever had on the channel, that I've ever had, period. Now, lately, shout out to my man Flynn. I was at work. He came to me with kind of a, it was kind of like a whiskey magazine. And I saw a lot of whiskeys in there that I had never had before. Of course, you see I've got some single malt scotches, and of course I gotta have an American single malt on the channel. But I said, you know what? I've never had anything from India. Now, I have seen Amrut, and it's just so expensive in my area. I mean, I see it for 95 all the way up to 200, and I think it even can go past that. So I was out with the wife. We went to a roller skating rink in Crofton. I visited a store called Angel Share. That's an excellent store. If you are in that area or you know about that area, go and check that store out. They had some single barrels that they did let me get a couple of samples of, and I was impressed. They had two or three Detlings, and they had an Old Soul, and that Old Soul, I've got to go back for that Old Soul. But anyway, so I was there, and I was actually looking for one that I saw in that magazine called Omar, but I ran into this beautiful canister. If you are a fan of Spider-Man and you know about the Green Goblin, and he kind of had like that, it was almost like a matte, but it had like a sheen to it. This canister is just gorgeous, man. And it was 45 bucks. It comes in at 46 ABV, which is 92 proof. They are, they're not an old company. I believe it's pronounced KAMET. It's either KAMET or KAMET. It's named after the third highest mountain in the Himalayas in India. So I was like, you know what? If I'm not going to get Amrut, and I do want an Indian single malt, let me try out an Indian single malt with something on the cheaper side before I dive head first into something that's like 199 bucks and can't stand it. You guys know how I feel about doing something like that. But I think this was a beautiful canister. It stuck out to me, and of course, like I said, the price was right at 45 bucks. It's finished in quite a few barrels, and I'll tell you what, I don't know when I'm going to release this, but yesterday we shot a live with Whiskey Road. So shout out to David and Jamie from Whiskey Road, the Whiskey Six, all my family at the Whiskey Six. You know who you are. Brian Bourbon School, Bobby Bad Axe Bourbon, Ben the Bourbon No, Sean Mashing Metal, and that was and myself. So, you know, the Whiskey Six is normally 5 of us, and we leave that opening for another channel. But Nancy Fraley hopped on, and if you don't know who she is by now, I don't know what to tell you, but Nancy the Nose Fraley, she's hopped on lives before, and I put this bottle out. She said, you know, I can't wait for your review, blah, blah, blah. Kind of blew my head up a little bit. But anyway, you see, I have been enjoying this bottle because I did want to give it a fair shake before I put it on the channel. And when I got it home that day, I liked it. But I wanted to let it air out. I wanted to do certain things with it, test it out in certain ways. And I really, really, really am enjoying this bottle. All right, so I've already got a sample poured up. I've talked enough. I'm pretty sure when I go over to edit this video, it's going to be like, oh man, I missed to mention that. But anyway, let's get into the nose of this thing, because I kind of rambled on a little bit. So it's got this really funky nose to it. It's fruity. It's sweet. It's like a fresh summer breeze. It's got a little bit, like I said, it's got a little bit of a funk to it. And then you get hit with a little bit of a raisin. Yeah, like raisins and apples, man. Raisins and apples. And there's almost a waxy note in there too. All right, let's get into the palate. So it's got a very nice palate. The palate actually comes across a little waxy too. For a second, I picked up a hint of like lemongrass in there, and that is actually coming across on the palate. Now, I didn't go into what this thing is finished in. It's finished in like 3 different barrels. So X bourbon barrels, of course, American oak, then X wine, French oak, and then X sherry cask, the PX and Oloroso. So it's a combination of, I guess, just their Indian single malt finished in those 3 casks and then blended together by Nancy. It says that they are a joint venture between Peak Spirits and Piccadilly Spirits, and the project is based in Kurukshetra, India. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But it's a lot going on with this whiskey, man. I enjoy how it comes across really creamy on the palate. They say it's I think it's double pot distilled, and it's a 6-row malted barley. Now, Nancy did mention that on the show. She put it in the comments. She said that that's going to give it a different flavor. I forgot what other single malt that I tasted before. It was a bourbon that used like 6-row. But anyway, let's get back into the nose one more time, see if I can pull a couple more things out. Yeah, it's a beautiful, like, it's hard to explain because I'm picking up so many things at the same time. So I'm picking up the raisins, I'm picking up like this the apple notes, I'm picking up, there's almost this waxy note that I just can't put my hand on. It's almost like a fresh summer breeze coming across the nose. Wow, the second sniff, I picked up just a touch of smoke. Not like a peated, because this Lefroy quarter cask can be a bit overpowering. But I'm picking up like a touch of smoke. All right, let's go back in the palate. That's really nice, really light, but it's viscous at the same time. It's got a really nice mouthfeel. It's got char in the back. That raisin picks up. I'm still picking up just a touch of that like lemongrass. There's a waxiness on the palate as well, but you also pick up like the golden raisins. Like the golden raisins. There's a note of like the golden raisins in here, and I think that's the first time I've ever given that note on this channel. Yeah, see, now that I'm into the 3rd sniff, I'm starting to get into the whiskey, and I'm starting to get black pepper. I'm starting to smell black pepper on the nose. Still got that raisin note going on, an apple note, back into the palate for the 3rd time. That's nice. That's really nice. I have got to drink this thing with my whiskey stones. I have some stainless steel whiskey stones because it is nice how it's coming across the palate right now. But for whatever reason, this Glenmorangie Kita Ruban, I believe I've been saying it wrong, finished one. When I put that thing with ice, it is money. And this right here, let's just cut. Let me go get my rocks glass and get the stainless steel stones, and I'll be right back. Now, this is something that I would consider to be more of a summertime sipper. Sorry about that. It's very light, very refreshing. The apples, the raisins, that light like lemongrass note. But when I put it over these stainless steel whiskey stones, because I don't like to have my whiskey watered down, and I think when you add ice sometimes it waters it down, it gives it a weird flavor, and I do not like that. But when I chilled this thing down, man, those lighter notes became darker, became richer. And I like my bourbons like really rich, so this could like go either way. Like, you could drink this thing cool in the summertime with whiskey at room temperature, or put it over stones, or you could drink it in the wintertime if you wanted to by putting it over stones. At least I would, by putting it over stones, just to bring some of those other notes out and just to make them darker and richer. Let's go into the palate. Cheers. Yeah. That even makes the mouth feel thicker. Like, if it was a 5, not on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm just saying, like, I'm just throwing a number out there. If it was a 5, it bumped it up to like a 7. I mean, like, this thing is just, I am really liking this one. All right, go back in one more time. So the lemongrass becomes more prevalent. The char that's in the back actually turns to a light smoke. So like how I was saying, I was getting that in the nose just a touch. So that char on the back, and it's not peaty at all. It's just a light smoke on the back. Some people would say campfire. Myself, I would probably say fire pit. You know, I don't sit around a lot of campfires. Have been camping, but me and the wife, we used to sit around the fire pit a lot, and it just kind of reminds me of that, just like a light smoke on the back end. Those golden raisins really pop. I am now getting more of a chocolate presence. I think for 45 bucks, let's just get into the breakdown. All right, so is it worth retail? Or no, let me say, is it worth the chase? Is it worth the chase? It's, you know, I don't know what their distribution looks like. It's a $45 bottle that I think is excellent. I'm not saying that I would stand outside of a store overnight to get this bottle, but if I was out and I heard that a store 45 minutes away, 50 minutes away, because Crofton, if you know where Bryantown is at, Crofton is about an hour away from me. So I would drive back to get a bottle. So is it worth the chase? I'm going to say no, it's not worth the chase, but it is damn close. Is it worth retail? I think for 45 bucks, man, this being an Indian single malt, being my first Indian single malt, this thing being a single malt period, it's hard to beat. It is very, very hard to beat, especially for a summertime sipper, something that is nice, light, and refreshing. I am really enjoying that, and I can't wait to get this thing out on the back deck with a cigar. I probably would pair this with something around that mild to medium, or medium getting closer to full. I wouldn't go all full because I think that would overpower this whiskey right here. I would do like a nice maybe a Perdomo Habano, or like with the Connecticut wrapper, or maybe something like maybe an Oliva Old Maduro, or maybe an Oliva G. Who is it for? This is for that guy who is into bourbon, doesn't mind dibbling and dabbling into whiskeys, and wants to try a cheap single malt. I think this is for you. I mean, coming in at 92 proof, it is not going to blow your face off, and it is not going to break the bank at 45 bucks. I say give it a shot. Will it always be on the bar? I like this bottle enough that I think this bottle will always be on the bar. And with that being said, let the whiskey flow. Never run out unless you head it to a drop. Till next time.